Hello, everyone. We'll be starting today's session. My name is Esteban Echeverri. I'm co-founder of Olas Neo. We are a verified open edX service provider. We're based in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And today, I will have the honor to be the master of ceremony of this open edX meetup. We will have two very interesting presentations. We will have Hen Eytan from Annoto in the first place. He's gonna provide the initial presentation. And then we will have Elizabeth Madariaga from Edios Media, right? So the way today's event is gonna be structured, we will have a 20-minute presentation, then a 10-minute Q&A session for questions that you have while you see the presentations. Please write your questions in the room chat so that we can then at the end of the presentation review those questions. And then, first it's going to be Hen, then it's going to be Elizabeth, and then we will have half an hour of unstructured time in the main area. You are more than welcome to go and reach other people from the community, or if you have any other questions for the presenters, feel free to do it. So we're gonna start, and please note that these sessions, they will be recorded. So if you don't want to appear in the recordings, please turn off your cameras. And with that said, let's begin with the first presentation. The first presenter of the August Open edX Meetup is Hen Eytan, co-founder and CEO of Annoto. Annoto is a third-party Open edX provider focused on delivering innovative UX for optimizing student interaction and engagement delivered through video content, right? So Hen, please go ahead with your presentation. Welcome, and it's your time to present.
Okay. Thank you everyone for attending. Great to see everyone. In the short presentation, we will bring a bit of highlights of how we can create more engaging and immersive discussions within Open edX using Annoto. But I think to start a discussion, basically, we need to go back where we started. Okay, we started in the physical classroom. Okay. Well, from one side we had students, from the other side we have the instructor delivering the content. While watching the class, okay, students can just raise their hand, right? Ask questions, collaborate, learn from one another. It was very active, a very social learning experience. I can learn from others. If Esteban asked a question, I can say, oh, I had the same question Esteban asked, or maybe I'm not the only one that didn't understand it. I see that also Esteban didn't understand this part of content. So it's enabled us to learn from others, to collaborate, get new ideas on how to understand this content, by have that group learning experience, exactly like we are doing today in this online meetup. But of course, once we engage in, throughout the class, in specific moments, within the context of that course, also the instructor, get a lot of insights on the students, right? You can see, which student understand the topics he delivered, what topics were not clear. Maybe next time we need to add more examples. So this in-person interaction that we had in the physical classroom enables students to have conversation within the context of that class, enable to get a lot of insights, a lot of understanding and more higher level of education understanding, of the content. Once we moved online, basically we stripped all of that learning experience. Now the students are facing with a new reality, that is just going to the content. If it's pages or videos, it's a very passive, a very lonely experience. If I have a question, I need to go to a different context, like discussion forums, WhatsApps, Facebook groups, or emails. I cannot learn from others, in the right context. Once I cannot engage with the content in specific moments where I'm not understanding it, and I need to ask like a general question on a different environment, it also doesn't enable the instructor or the course management team to help me, okay, to understand what exactly I didn't understand, also to identify points in the content that they maybe need to improve because it's not clear for the learners. So of course we have the discussion forums and the WhatsApp and the Slack and emails and a lot of different channels of communication, okay? But all of these channels of communication still impose very hard to the students, okay, to the learner, to find the appropriate context, okay? Maybe somebody already asked my question, maybe I'm not the only one that didn't understand it. Get answers, okay? And have that aggregated, okay? So other students that are coming and viewing this content will already have the answers, okay? They don't need to re-ask it because like in the physical classroom, somebody already asked it and I heard it and learned from that. And also intuitively continue the discussion, okay? Builds around that topics and enable more deep discussions within the context of that content. And this is where basically Annoto comes in, okay? And the aim is basically to change the perspective of how students learning with content, but not enabling them to just play, pause the video or passively view the content, but basically enable them to have interactive layers on top of this content. It can be video, it can be pages, it can be anything, any learning object, basically, and enable to the student to have social capabilities. For example, like adding comments on a video, okay? The comment can be time tagged, they can collaborate in any moment in the video, they can learn from others. Of course, we have different layers, okay, of interactivity. It can be personal notes and one-on-one chat and other layers that we'll see a bit in a minute. But once we enable this layer, okay, of interactivity, enabling the student to express themselves, okay, like they can do in the classroom, have that in-context ability, okay, to engage with the content and engage with other users, it's also enabled us to get a lot of insights and analytics. Not just if they watch the content or didn't watch the content, but actually are they understanding the content, what they're asking about, what topics they are not clear for them. Are the content we designed for them, okay, is clear enough, okay? So let's say we designed the course, and after one cohort, we want to get insights. Wait, was the course clear enough? Okay, maybe we need to add more examples. Maybe we need to add additional activities, okay, as part of our course design. So today we don't have it, but once we have that in context engagement and collaboration, we basically can get a lot of insights, not just on the users, but of course on the content. Of course, when we talk about learning is not just happening in video. Okay, learning can be on audio, can be on pages of activities we're creating or assignments. It can also be a live stream, okay, that we want to stream to the learners. Annoto basically enabled to have that cross activity in context discussion and collaboration within that learning objects. Of course, once we add in this interactive layer on top of the content, it's not just now enabling to students to ask questions, collaborate, engage, but we basically can open a new way, okay, of learning, okay, and support a variety of different use cases that up to now was visible only in the physical classroom. Now we can basically have collaborative learning, like in the physical classroom, enable users to collaborate, engage, doing the different units of our course. We can also enable students to have their own self-learning environment, okay, where they can summarize key points within the video, but basically enable them, okay, to engage with the content. And once they're engaging with the content, they also have a reason to go back to the video content, engage more and learn more with the content. This is how it looks like within Open edX. So Annoto can overlay on video content. Annoto is just overlaying on existing video content. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to re-embed the content. Annoto just overlay on top of your existing content. If it's video, it's enabled you to have time-based ready discussion within a video, okay, and other layers that we'll talk in a minute. We can also have another discussion on the page level, okay, on the different units, okay. This can enable, for example, the learners to summarize, okay, key points that they learn in each one of the units, and later on also export that. So what are the different layers that Annoto can provide? Just to give a couple of examples, we have the Comments tab. Comments tab enables students to collaborate within the context of that video content. They can have anonymized capability. For example, if I'm too shy and I afraid to ask question, I can ask as anonymously. Student can also have video comments. Okay, I can record myself on my screen to explain exactly what I didn't understand, but it also enabled the course moderator to add the additional enrichment layer on top of the video content. Okay, so if you see a lot of questions of students on a specific moment, you can just record the video, add it as part of additional layer to the video content, and basically engage more with the students. And of course, everything is empowered by email notification, enabling students to go back to the video content, learn more, and engage more with the content. Of course, we have other layers like one-on-one chat, okay, that I can collaborate in network with my other classmates. I can have my own personal notebook, okay, where I can reflect on the content. If it's a self-learning course, the student can just summarize keynotes from that content, and later on export that as a notebook, okay, that you can reflect offline, okay, not just online. And of course, we also enable interactions. Okay, interactions enable us to create quick in-video assessments like quizzes, polls, and surveys. Again, everything within the Open edX environment. This is like a quick example. Of course, we can say, wait, but we have different capabilities and different features. Different units need different features. Okay, different units, different courses need different capabilities. Another provides you a seamless dashboard that you can just pick and choose what type of features you want to have across your course, across your units, or for specific video pages. Okay, everything very simple. Just toggle what feature you want. Again, you don't need to change your content. Another just empowering your current courses. So let's say if you already have, let's say, 20 videos in your course, Another can seamlessly overlay on top of them, and you can pick and choose what type of interactive in-context capabilities you want to provide to your students. And basically leveraging Open edX for the different activities, okay, within units, discussions, wherever you can embed this content, Nauto can seamlessly added as part of the Open edX environment, and basically empower your content. Of course, just this is some of our customers that leveraging Nauto for the different use cases on the different environments they are using, and just to share a bit of couple of use cases of these customers using Nauto. So of course, we have collaborative learning. Collaborative learning enable us to create meaningful discussions within the video, very similar to what we had in the physical classroom. We can collaborate, students can ask questions, can learn from others, they can follow other students' questions, and also, of course, the instructor can add additional layer of information, okay, to the video and enrich the overall learning experience of the students. Another use case we have is guided watching. A lot of time we are delivering content, but we also want to provide a bit of guidance, okay, to the students, ask them different questions to elaborate around that concepts that we're providing to them. Enable them reflection questions, okay, to get them thinking, not just passively watching to the video. And this basically increased the student engagement and participation within the video, and of course enabling the students to share more information around their content. Of course, a lot of time in courses, we have courses where we don't look for the collaboration part, okay, or the community-driven part. We just want to enable the students to have a self-learning environment where they can reflect on the content. For that, you can basically use the Nauto personal notes and also the Nauto quizzes to enable students to have self-reflection throughout the video, get feedback on their level of understanding, and do more. Of course, once we have these different activities, and again, this is a mere examples of the different activities our customers utilizing in Nauto to increase engagement within their courses. Of course, once we have the users lean forward, engaging with the content, we also can get a lot of insights, right? Because now we actually have the student voice. We can see where they ask questions, what they didn't understand. And basically, here comes the Nauto dashboard. Nauto dashboard is also available for the course designer or the course instructor within the Open edX. Okay, everything that you currently saw, everything is available within the Open edX environment. We are not redirecting the user outside They don't need to configure any ATI or anything. It's an X block that is overlaying on top of their content. They're basically providing a state-of-the-art dashboard that enables them to see the different cohorts or courses, drill down to the specific videos or pages or to the specific user profile and get insights, okay, on the progress, are they struggling, low student activity, okay. Also get a lot of insights on the content, okay, level of consumption, was everything clear, what units were not clear, how we can improve that units, okay. So Nauto provide a lot of these insights, but of course you can also say, wait, hey, look, this is great, okay. So I have a course management dashboard, I can get a lot of insights on my content, on my users, but I have a lot of courses, okay, across my open edX environments. It's not just one course. I have like 100 or thousands of courses. And also provide you admin dashboard. This admin dashboard basically enables you to manage all of your online courses across the open edX environment. You can just drill down from here and go to the specific course or cohort and get all the insights in one central place to enable you to understand, okay, our students, the level of stickiness, retention, level of engagement, okay? So you can get a lot of insights, everything in one place. And again, like I mentioned, you don't need to change anything from that perspective. Just to very quick, in the last 1-2 minutes, just to show a bit of how it looks like. So this is the Open edX environment. I guess you're familiar with the video. Okay, this is a very familiar video in the Open edX environment. And like you see, okay, Annoto is overlaying on top of your existing video. You don't need to change your player, your streaming. Annoto knows how to overlay on any type of activity. Also, if it's H5P for that extent, and basically enable you to have different interactive layers, like we mentioned, comments, people tab, personal notes, and more. For example, like we mentioned in the comments tab, we can have video comments. Okay, I can basically launch, okay, my camera. I can record my camera or my screen, okay, to explain something that students didn't understand, or enable students to upload their video, okay, to explain different subjects. Okay, basically take it to another different level of engagement. And of course, students can basically follow the different discussions, get notified, and now basically have a reason to go back to the video content, engage more, and learn more with the content. But like we mentioned, we don't have just videos in Open edX, right? We also have pages, okay? So Nauto can overlay on pages as well, okay? To enable the different activities. Like I mentioned, you can also choose to enable only personal notes. On some units you can enable more than that, and all of that can be done using the Nauto dashboard. Okay, the Nauto dashboard also available within the Open edX environment, enable you to get a lot of insights on the course level, video level, and insight level. We'll not go over all the analytics, but of course, you can also choose what type of features you want to enable, okay, for your course. Do I want to enable comments across the different activities I have in my course, or maybe I just want to enable personal notes across my course, and I want to go to specific activities, videos, or pages, and only for that specific, for example, video, I want to have just personal notes, for example, or I also want comments. So it's also very seamlessly that you can just target what type of activities you want to enable in your course environment. Of course, like I mentioned, you also have the admin dashboard. The admin dashboard enables you to, from a high-level view, to manage all of your Open edX environments. See the different courses you have, and what is the level of engagement? What is my top engaged course? Okay, what is the level of consumptions, okay, of that courses? Okay, so the Nauto dashboard basically enables you to manage the different activities and see the level of engagement, okay, you have throughout the course lifetime. And of course, you can also drill down to that course in the end of the enrollment, okay, get decisions, see what content worked most, what is less, and basically improve, okay, close that circle of feedback, okay, to enable you also on ongoing basis to understand what is happening with your online courses and how you can increase student engagement assessment within the content. Esteban, I'm in the right time?
Yes, Hen, yes. Actually, you have 3 more minutes.
Okay. So of course, all reports and a very intuitive question can be, okay, wait. So all of this richness, okay, Annoto provides. how we can get that also as part of the Open edX dashboard. Okay, we already have dashboard in Open edX of analytics. So currently we are working to streamline all of these analytics also to be available as part of the Open edX reports. When we talk about the assessment layers, okay, the in-video quizzes, okay, we're also looking to have the in-video quizzes also available as part of the Grade Center of the Open edX. Again, the aim of Annoto is to be organic part, okay, of the edX platform, okay, to empower all different learning activities, but changing the whole perspective of separated discussion, okay, that we don't have the context, we don't have the actual content we are talking about, and move from a separated context to have everything within the context on the time tag, on every in-context discussion, and this basically enable us to change the whole perception of how we engage students online, exactly like we did that in the physical classroom, right? In the physical classroom, we are not asking the student to go outside of the class and ask a question, right? We're asking the question within the class, within the actual lecture. This is what Annoto basically brings within the learning environment, basically. Any questions?
Okay, great. Thank you, Hen, for your presentation. Quite impressive, right? And very interesting. How many? It's interesting how many different use cases we can have with the tool, right? So let me ask you some questions that have been asked during your presentation, right? One question I have here is how about the mobile apps compatibility of Annoto?
Yeah, so Nauto is compatible with the mobile app. It works in a web view. We are compatible. There's a lot of work always to do around mobile because there's not a lot of space. Okay, when we talk about content and discussions on the content, but we are updating always our mobile experience to be like the leading platforms like TikTok and others that provide stream of information and discussion. But Another supports the mobile app as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. So here's another question. Does Annoto provide solo user analytics? Not sure if this is
yeah. So basically, Annoto provides a lot of information. We didn't go on the different level of analytics, but Annoto provides three level of analytics. Course level, again, this can be also cohort level, depending on how you set the X block. You have video level analytics. Okay, so I can go to a specific video. Okay, manage the discussion from here, get insights on that video, for example, and see each one of the students how they watch this content, how many questions they ask, if they re-watch the video. Okay, ask any question. Maybe I see that Hen is struggling. Okay, I see, let's say, Annoto Sandbox, watch 100% of the video, I re-watch it again and again, and ask a couple of questions. So this enabled me also to see students that didn't understand this video, okay? Of course, the next question can be, wait, maybe they didn't understand this video, but we want to see how they perform on the overall course, okay? And basically here we can see the user profile, okay? So you can see each one of the students in the course, and from here I can drill down, okay, and see the full profile. Okay, so this is the solo analytics you refer to. I can get a lot of metrics around the user and his level of activity, consumption. Also to see if he's going to drop out of the course. I see that he watched the first video, asked a lot of questions, and then didn't continue to the other units. Okay, so I'm not also enabled to identify that to support them. Another part that we're also planning to add is that also as part of the gradebook, meaning that you can also track video completion. Okay, so in order for students to get additional 10 points, okay, in the course, they need to at least watch 50% of the video of the course content, for example. Okay, or for example, they need to participate X amount of comments in order to get additional extra point of credit. So there is a lot coming as well, but yeah, of course, we provide user solo analytics, video analytics, and course level analytics as well, all different levels, basically.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. One of the questions here: what's the limit of the number of students who can interact synchronously within the video chat feature at a given lesson? Is there a limit of how many students can participate at the same time?
No, there's no any limit around the different participation. Very important to mention, this is aggregated data. Okay, so let's say now I have students that are asking questions. Tomorrow, new students that will come to this course, we see these questions. Okay, they can collaborate. There's no any limit. Usually, best practices, a lot of time courses separated to cohorts, right, and different structures. Annoto can support that different structures, basically. Okay, if you separated it for different cohorts or any other structure, but we don't have any limit. I can tell you that we have customers with 1,000 students. Okay. Very importantly, of course, the next question can be, wait, but 1,000 students, it can be a lot of questions, right? Not much, okay? A lot of time it's like in the classroom, okay? Not everyone are raising their hand asking questions, okay? Most of them asking questions, and you can also filter to the comments, just click top comments and see what is the top comments people upvote, okay, to have maybe meaningful insights. So there's no any limit around.
Great, that sounds great. So another question we have here, how can you assess enhanced student academic performance through the interactive video chat feature? So how can you get insights about that?
Exactly. So once we are getting comments, use GC, okay, user generated content as part of the gradebook, okay, meaning, for example, students need to at least add 3 comments, okay, in order to get additional 5 points. A lot of time to increase student engagement, in some cases, you can just create a meaningful discussion. In some cases, it's just the carrot and the stick, right? Just, okay, you need to add X amount of comments to get additional points for participation. So this is what exactly we are planning to do. Okay, adding additional rubrics that enables you to assess students based on the level of participation. Okay, or video consumption. Okay, so today we don't have any way to enforce participation as part of grade. Okay, now we basically can do that using Annoto.
Okay, great. That's great. So one more question. So what's the licensing scheme for implementing Annoto in general terms?
So Annoto, like I mentioned, it's a simple text block. It's a 5 minutes integration added to your platform. We support the latest Open edX version, but also the later ones, okay, because each version has a bit of different flavors. Annoto is a subscription-based, annual subscription-based, with all features available, annual subscription, basically.
Okay.
I see also what about integration with the Moodle? So yeah, Annoto, like we're integrated within Open edX, Annoto also has a local plugin, okay, that can integrate in Moodle on any environment. We support Canvas, Blackboard, Open edX, Moodle. Also, if you have your own custom Open edX, okay, Annoto can fully customize, can fully be customized for your customer requirements and brands. Okay, you can fully um, um, style it. Okay, based on your needs as well.
Great. So we are running out of time of the Q&A session. Thank you very much, Hen, for your presentation and your answers. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to contact Hen after the last half an hour of the event in the unstructured area. So thank you for that.
Just the last question. Can Annoto integrate with Gradebook? Yes, Annoto can integrate with the Gradebook, of course. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hen. Now we're going to go to the second presentation. Yes, Hen. Great. So let me welcome Elizabeth Madariaga, co-founder of Edios Media. Edios Media is an open edX marketplace provider and an award-winning education video production agency that is reimagining the way people learn. So about the topic of Elizabeth's presentation, so many of the online courses are created with English content by English native speakers. But as well, we are all here in this is a good example, today's meetup with people from different parts of the world. The OpenEdX platform is used in many different regions with many different languages, and also by organizations that deliver courses in different languages, right? So there's one challenging situation where you want to do some translations and from one main course, maybe in English or maybe in another language. And today we'll hear about Elizabeth's experience and his team experience on how to approach this challenge. So Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
Pues muchas gracias, Esteban. Buenos días, soy Elizabeth Madariaga. Yo soy una de las cofundadoras de Edios Media, como dice. Edios es una agencia de producción. Sí. Ahora voy en inglés. Pero basically, unless like me, you have family from Spain or you have some family members that don't speak English, you probably didn't understand what Esteban and I were just saying. And so that's part of what we're here to talk about, right? We're here to talk about translation. So I'm Elizabeth Madariaga. I'm one of the co-founders of Edios Media. Edios is a video production agency that is focused specifically on custom-built educational experiences for the modern learner. While our agency focuses primarily on content development, production, and post-production of online course videos, in the last few years, we've also started to do some localization work for our clients. As you know, and as Esteban mentioned, the majority of open online enrollment courses are created in English by native English speakers. Some platforms have account settings that offer a few different languages for subtitles and other language integrations, but lots of times these are crowdsourced or machine translations. And those kinds of translations can have quite a lot of errors, and a lot of times they don't work on all parts of the course. So they may work on videos, but they may not work on the readings or the quizzes. As our global community is growing closer and the need to upskill a huge workforce is increasing, we need to think about empowering learners all over the world to benefit from the incredible opportunities that online learning provides, because it can be really life-changing. But translating a full course worth of material can be a really complicated process because you're wrangling thousands of files that need to be duplicated into multiple languages. It's really easy to get overwhelmed, and it's really easy to confuse the different team members that are working on wrangling all of this. My team has learned quite a lot in the past couple of years as we've been translating multiple courses into multiple languages. So today I'd like to talk about 4 things that we've learned that have helped make the translation process smoother for us. And hopefully by the end of our time together, you'll have a clearer sense of what you need to be thinking about as you're exploring localizing your own course. So today we're going to talk about what you need to know about translations when you're creating the content. We'll talk about picking the right translation partner. We'll talk about managing all the assets that you need to translate. And we'll also talk about how to get translation work validated or checked to make sure that you're on the right track. So to do this, I'm going to use the work that we're currently doing to translate the Google Career Certificates as an example. Edios was founded 6 years ago, and in those 6 years, by far the biggest project that we've worked on are collectively these career certificates. Currently, there are 6 live on Coursera. They're made up of 39 courses, over 2,500 videos, and literally thousands of individual course items. And that's everything from the videos, the assessments, the readings, all of it. These are the biggest certificate programs in the world, with hundreds of thousands of learners worldwide. Grow with Google is leading the effort on these certificates, and their mission is to provide training and tools and expertise to make sure that technology is bringing opportunity to everyone. 5 of the certificates that are live are called gateway certificates. And this means that they're specifically designed for people who don't have any information in the field. So, for example, you can take the UX design certificate, and even if you don't have any background in UX design, by going through each of the courses and doing all of the exercises and all of the assessments, you would have enough information to apply for an entry-level job. And you'd also have the beginnings of a portfolio to show potential employers. Grow with Google has been working to expand access to these certificates by translating all of them into 11 languages in addition to English. So 8 languages have launched so far, and another 3 languages will launch starting this fall. As you can probably imagine, and as I mentioned before, localizing this amount of content is a pretty daunting challenge. Each of them contains very highly technical language in things like data analytics, UX design, IT support. There's text everywhere. It's in the videos, it's in the readings, the discussion prompts, it's in the images, it's everywhere. And it's a huge amount of files to wrangle. So let's start by thinking about translation while you're creating course content. If you already know that you're going to localize your course eventually, you want to start as you mean to go on. And here are a couple things that we would suggest. So Google takes a lot of care when they're developing their scripts to use global examples that everyone can relate to. So for example, instead of using baseball, they'll use soccer. Baseball is not a thing outside of the United States, but soccer, or football as it's known everywhere else, is global. And you want to think about that global audience when you're using examples or metaphors. And this also goes for things like names. If you're putting an example into your course, John and Sarah tend to be the go-to names in English. But you also want to think about using names with a more global context, like Malika or Esteban. They also don't use jokes or idioms for a lot of reasons. The phrase "when pigs fly" in English is "cuando los sapos bailan flamenco" in European Spanish. And that translates directly to "when frogs dance the flamenco." And if you're using machine translation, these kinds of idioms can end up confusing your Spanish-speaking learners. A machine translation would literally translate "when pigs fly" into those words, not the intended meaning. And if you have plans to localize your content in different languages, you want to keep your wording pretty simple and straightforward. If you're creating a lot of custom imagery in your courses, you also want to try and avoid relying on text to make your images understandable. If you can keep it to icons or other universal design styles, your learners are going to appreciate it because they will understand more. So for example, this is a diagram that's going to be really tough for a non-English speaker to read. They're really going to have to do some digging on their side to understand all of these words. But this is a diagram that is a lot easier for people to understand. It's using the elephant icons to show the scale difference, and it's relying on very simple symbols and numbers. So you've completed all the course content, your course is ready to go in English. And now you want to think about who is that right translation partner for you. And this is where you really need to do your homework. You're going to be working with this team for a very long time. It's very important that you take the time to pick the right person. So first off, as with any vendor, you want to get referrals. There's a lot of translation companies out there. Translation is a very subtle and a very subjective art. Like all language, it is often a matter of preference and expression. There are some times where translations are objectively good or bad, but most translation discrepancies are not a matter of right and wrong. Language preferences really play a big role. One of the big questions you want to ask your potential translator is also whether they use machine or human translation or some sort of combination. Google prefers in their work that we're using human translation. Human translation tends to have fewer errors, I'm using that word in quotes, than machine translation does. And I use it in quotes because remember, it is a very subjective art form. Human translation also takes a long time. Machine translation is much faster, but it's much more error prone. And if you are translating a lot of dense or highly specialized material, you may want to use a translator that has humans doing the bulk of the work. You also want to make sure that translators themselves are subject matter experts in the area. And this can be really challenging to find. Good translators are in very high demand. And if you're trying to find someone who is fluent in Arabic, but they also need to know about data analytics, your pool is going to shrink even more. And it can take time to find the right translation partner with the right experience. So you want to make sure that you're spending a good amount of time on this stage. Once you've picked a translator, that's when the bulk of the work really starts. You're going to need to get them every piece of text and every file that they need to translate in a way that's going to set them up for success. And you also need to make sure that your team can take those translated files and get them back up into your LMS efficiently. So we start by getting the translators some previously translated examples, their glossaries, any client style guides, all of that at the very beginning. And that's going to help the translators make the right decisions as they're going through the material. You need to know what terms stay in English, and that's often determined either by the client or by industry norms. Some languages, particularly in test situations, use the English phrase, and some languages translate it into their native language. You also want to make sure your English masters are very organized. So we organize our English master by certificate, and then by course, and then by language, and then by module. And then each module is then organized into separate folders that house each asset. So this all works great for the translators, but what happens if your staff is not fluent in all of these different languages that you're trying to translate into? So the Google certificates live on Coursera, and Coursera's interface requires a pretty manual process to download and upload all the different assets. And my staff is not multilingual. So we devised a pretty simple system for my team and the translators to use. So in one of the documents, all of the red text will all stay in English. The black text is the translation version. And this is making uploading a lot faster on our end. My team knows exactly where a translated sentence is supposed to go. Every LMS is different, so you may be working within ones that make this process a little bit easier. But essentially, you just want to remember, you need to make sure that you know where every translated goes. You also want to make sure that you have a really clear process for translating special file types. PDFs and docs and spreadsheets, they're all easy for most translators to use. But you do want to clarify how they handle other files. The plugins that we use in the certificates are typically YAMLs or JSON files. Some of our translators have been able to deal with these pretty easily. And sometimes we've had to pull out the text portion from these files into easier documents for them. Any file types beyond a simple doc or PDF can take longer to translate because there's just more technical work the translators have to do to essentially unpack that English version and then repackage it. And this is also often the hardest file type for our clients to validate. And that's bringing us to our final talking point today, which is having your client validate that translated work. So just as kind of a reminder overview, this is kind of where we are in the process. So we created the English masters. The translators have worked on a small section. So we usually have them work on about a module worth of material. And then that translated section is then sent to our clients to validate. And this part of the process is very important because you want to determine if the translation work is going to meet the standards of your client. And remember when I said that translation is a subjective art form? This is specifically where that comes into play in a lot of different ways. Validation is essentially the client reviewing an entire module worth of material. All the subtitle files, all the readings, titles, metadata, discussion prompts, everything. And we also will have the translators create a glossary if one does not already exist in the course. And so why are we forcing our clients to look at all this material? We want to know if the grammar style is working for them. Everyone has an opinion about how things should be expressed. Everyone has an opinion about comma placement. And I learned in the last 2 years that that's actually a thing in every language. Some languages like Japanese use different characters in a header than they may use if that same word was in the body text of a reading or an assessment. So we make our clients validate a small amount of material to start, because the last thing we want to do is translate 800,000 words and then find out that it needs to be redone. So when you're validating, you want to make sure that you're having them validate at least one example of every file type. And that's going to be things, all of it, documents, SRTs, which are the subtitle files, plugins, anything that you're using. You want to get overall notes first. Are there global things that need fixing, like a grammar preference? But you also want to make sure that you get really specific examples. The great thing about most docs these days is that everybody can use track changes and comments to directly communicate or fix things. And that's going to allow our translators to immediately see what's been changed and what the client's preferences are, so that they can then integrate that into their work and ask any pertinent questions if needed. But the most important thing is, while this validation process is going on, you don't want the translators to start working again until that validation stage is complete. And that way they can implement all of that feedback into their work on the rest of the course. And so once we have the validated section back, we'll then translate everything on a course-by-course basis, and then we'll upload it and launch the courses live. And this is just a quick example of what it looks like. This is the main certificate landing page of the Google Data Analytics Certificate in Spanish. You will see some English words in there, and that's the hard-coded text on the Coursera platform. And this is what a reading looks like, and you can also see the course syllabus on the left-hand side. And this is what a video page would look like. This is Tony. He's our instructor for the first data analytics course. But we haven't translated everything. So when the learner plays the video, they're going to hear Tony in English. He's not dubbed. So what they can do is they can turn the subtitles on and off and read along in Spanish or in another language. But the course videos still have a lot of text in them. And this is an example. This is a still from one of the videos. And there's about 2,500 videos right now just across the 6 certificates that are live. The cost of re-editing all of these videos into 11 languages is prohibitive. And so Google decided to leave all the graphics within the video itself in English. My team has talked quite a bit about how we can create native non-English versions of course videos if that's desirable. And that can range from shooting everything in multiple languages with multilingual crews to just translating the graphics within the videos and then re-editing. This will add more time and effort and more budget, obviously. But if this is something you want to tackle, it is definitely doable. So I'm not going to lie, this process takes a very, very long time. We started translating all these certificates into all these languages over a year ago, and we have about 8 months left to go before everything is finished in every language. So on a stage-by-stage basis, creating the English masters for us only takes about a week, and that's because we've created a system and template, so we aren't designing that from scratch. The translation of a module usually takes about 2 weeks once the translation team is in place. And that's because they've got setup work to do on that first module. So they need to review all the examples, the style guides, get themselves organized, and just sort of familiarize themselves with the content. Our client validation takes anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks in the best cases. We don't allow our translators to continue working until this validation comes back. And any delays in validation can mean that we do lose translators as they'll take on other work. Once that validation stage is complete, translating a full course takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And then my team can usually get courses uploaded and launched within a week. So with everything going perfectly, and there's no problems, and there's no pandemics, and there's no delays, it can take about 3 months from start to finish for one course to be translated. And if you want a QA or if you want a beta test before launch, obviously that's going to add more time into this. So before we wrap up, this is my dad, and this is around the time that he moved to the United States. He came here from Spain in the 60s to work on a sheep ranch. And he's Basque. And it was not easy to be a Basque person living under the fascist dictatorship in Spain at that time. His family was very poor, and his parents, my grandparents, they were almost fully illiterate. He had to go to work from a very young age, and he did not go to high school. When he immigrated here, he spoke Basque and Spanish fluently, but he did not speak a word of English. And some of the men who worked with him were also Basque, so he wasn't totally lost and alone. But all of them who worked there together, they were lost in a sea of English speakers who made no effort to learn their language or speak their language. So these guys had to learn English the hard way to teach themselves. They listened to the radio, they fumbled through conversations with their supervisors. But if online learning had been invented when my dad was younger and was translated into Basque or Spanish, I have no doubt that he would have earned multiple degrees in agriculture and animal husbandry. He made it really clear to me and my two sisters that we were going to get the education that he was not able to, whether we wanted to or not. He only spoke English in our house growing up because he did not want us to struggle the way he had to. And there are millions of parents and millions of people like him across the world. And this is why it's so important to think about localization. Providing learning in languages that people can understand can be transformative. An entry-level tech job can provide wealth, and that can have generational effects, of positive effects on families. And I'm just really proud that Edios and Google are working together to bring this opportunity and education to those learners in languages that they can understand. And as you all work to translate your courses and all of your content, you're also going to be part of that and giving learners the tools that they need to change their lives. So, as my dad would say, I just wanted to say, es que recasco, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you'd like to talk any further about localization services, or if you just have questions about the process, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Muchas gracias. And thank you for the initial words. Your presentation really, I think it really took the effect, right? I thought I was confused. Thank you for that. It took us by surprise, right? So let's see if we have any questions here in the chat. We have one. What measurable value have you tracked by offering full courses and certificates in the learner's native language?
That's a really good question. And we don't have the answer to that yet. Most of these languages have just started launching within the last quarter. And so we're still gathering all of that information. Google usually takes about a full year to evaluate these types of projects. So I don't think we'll know the answer to that for quite a while. We do know that in Spanish, Latin American Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese were the first two that were launched in January of this year. And we do know that there are significant amounts of people enrolled in that, but I don't have any other specifics than that right now.
Okay. Let's see, one other question here. Do course teams often update their original content in small ways, causing drift in translated versions over time?
Yes, they do. And this is definitely a huge problem that needs tracking during the overall project management process. So what we've typically done is we put a freeze time. So while we're duplicating courses, while we're pulling the English masters, we don't allow anybody to make any changes to the course content. And then what we'll do is we actually have a pretty large change log. So anytime something has changed, if an item is removed, if a title has changed, we track all of that. And then once a full certificate is translated and live, then we go back and we start tackling that change log across all of the languages. But yes, it can be very daunting, especially when you're wanting to make those changes. Often what we would suggest is after your course is launched live, there's usually sort of a period of optimization. So as you're seeing the learner feedback, as you're seeing learner flags and questions, you can make those changes to all of your content and hopefully get the bulk of those changes taken care of at once, and then start the localization process, 3-6 months after that first version goes live.
Okay, yeah, good. That's a good idea. Okay, one other question here. So how can offering courses and certificates in the learner's native languages be further enhanced? possible automations. And I also add another comment here. So in your process, so how's the percentage of, let's say, manual work or automated work in general terms?
So our translators primarily use it's human work, but they do have an automated glossary, an automated dictionary of everything that they're using. So the longer a translation project goes, it does speed up a little bit. But currently, because we are using human translation, it does take quite a lot of time. Does that answer is that the question?
Yes. So in terms of the automation, we can say we have two parts. One is the actual translation work with automated translations or human translators, and the other one is automating the process. So how much manual, like, I don't know, exporting the contents, importing the contents, right? How much of that process can what's your experience on that other part?
So we're in the middle of discovering that right now, because most of this work, as I said, is all on Coursera, and Coursera's the way that you are able to extract information and upload information. It's not there's not a ton of automation that's been added. It's still a very manual process, but my team has been working with Coursera to try and figure out if there are ways to speed it up. One thing that occurred to me as well in terms of automation, the difference between human and machine translation, as I mentioned, there's potentially more errors with machine translation. But if you're not worried about those errors, like for example, if you would rather prioritize speed over accuracy, machine translation is a great way to do that. You can acknowledge that there's going to be errors, and you just fix the errors if they are blatant errors. You can fix them after the fact. Automatic translation is machine translation is a much faster process. So instead of that 3 to 4 months per course, it could all of the from start to finish of pulling the masters, translating, getting it back up, that could be shortened significantly. And so I think a lot of it just has to do with what your preferences are as a company, and what your preferences are as a school.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So we have one last question because we are running out of time.
Sure.
How did you determine the increased learning engagement through the availability of courses in the students' native languages? So is there an indicator in terms of the engagement? How do you usually measure that?
So again, right now, because they have not been live for long enough, we don't really know the level of engagement. I do know that Google has put together teams of forum administrators and course administrators that will be interacting with the learners as flags pop up, as questions come into the discussion forum, or as questions go into the different instructors. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that as time goes on, and then figure out how to make this process better from there.
Okay, great. So we said it was the last question, but there's one more here. So I'm going to read it, and then we will close this part.
Sure.
So how important is it for translators to work into their native language rather than have potentially cheaper translators translate into their acquired language?
Yeah, so we use native speakers, and we try to use people who are native in the countries that we are translating. The biggest exception that we're doing right now is we are translating 2 certificates into Ukrainian, and obviously many Ukrainians have fled the country because of the war. Google prefers that they are native language speakers, not somebody like me I'm a native speaker who speaks Spanish. If I translated something, it would have errors. Again, I think this also comes down to the difference between human and machine translation. This is going to be your preference. It can also be you are correct. It is it will be cheaper if you do machine translation. It will be cheaper if you're using people who have acquired a language rather than born into it.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your presentation and answering to the questions from the audience. Now we want to thank you and Hen, and let's meet in Carpet E. Those who want to talk a little bit about the challenges of the translators on translation contents, and just feel free to meet people, introduce yourself, and say hi to everyone in the community. And thank you again for your time.